Hello, and welcome to another episode of the M42 Podcast. Again, I'm your host, Rick Trimmer, and I don't even know what episode number this is. Honestly, we've got too many to count, number 7 or 8. We're rolling here, and things are going good. So this episode is going to be the new format I told you about, where it's not all going to be guests and things like that. So this is going to be story time with Rick. So I have a lot of stories from my travels and experiences that are pretty funny. I get a lot of requests for them, parties and stuff like that, and family gatherings. So today I'm going to tell one of my classics. It's a elk hunting story / bear story in Colorado about 20 years ago. And it's a true story and one of the funnier ones. So we're going to jump right into that. We did not harvest an elk, but again, a lot of people don't realize that the purpose of me for hunting is not necessarily the kill. It's the memories and the stories that we make along the way. So let's jump into this episode. Hope you enjoy it. Remember to like, follow, all the good things, share us. We're a new company and we need your help. So appreciate you listening and helping get the word out. Let's jump into this one. This might have been a mistake. Today, we're going to do our first ever Friday. What did I call it? I had a name. We're just story time with Rick is what Ryan's like. Dude, just do story time with Rick. Have like a little rainbow, reading rainbow. Is that what it was? Yeah. He actually wanted me to hold a book and like sit here and be like, okay, today I'm going to tell you a story. So this is our first ever story time with Rick. I have many stories, don't I, Dad? I don't know why. Do you? I mean, I don't know if
your hunting
life. You just like to have fun. You're not afraid to laugh at yourself.
Well, and like Woody says,
not even that. Like the things that happen to you on hunts over and over again. It's unexplainable.
I always compare myself to Cody. You know Cody McCann.
Yeah.
And he has so many stories. Cody stories. We call them Cody stories. And it's funny because I can hear his stories and I'll be like, a normal person would have went left and he went right. And then I hear my own stories and I'm like, a normal person would have went left and I went right. I don't know what it is, but so yeah, we're gonna start. And I thought this is one of my classics. This is a good story. And since I finished recording with my dad, Kendall. He's here in the studio, my stepdad, Kendall. He's the one who looks like Richard Petty. Yeah. If you're watching on YouTube.
He is so cowboy.
It's not Woody.
Yeah. He's so I wish I could have been in Europe when they made him put a Speedo on to get in the pool. Speedo and a cowboy hat.
Yeah. He never did. Did you ever swim in Europe?
No.
It was hard for me, man. We went to a place in France and show up in our shorts and they're like, you got to get a Speedo on. And I'm like,
what?
Yeah, they make you because they say you Americans, you could wear those shorts to the pool. So they're dirty. You're not wearing a Speedo to the pool usually.
No.
So we he never wore one. He barely puts on when he gets in a pool, it's like full long sleeve shirt.
Yeah, I usually water ski and Levi's.
Yeah, like our neighbors, when we're here in Colorado City.
That's why you have all the stories you do.
Yeah. So, all right, if you're joining us, we're gonna go into a story. I wanted Kendall to be here for this because he was actually on this adventure. And yeah, it's so okay. We'll just jump into it. So, I was trying to think about this last night because I knew I was going to tell this story, and I think I was 25, so I wasn't married to Gina. And do you remember I was brokenhearted on that trip? It was in Colorado.
Yeah.
So it was an archery tag for elk. Any bull?
Yeah.
And you put me in. I didn't even know I drew. You were kind enough to put me in back then. That's how I drew that one bull we shot. And then this one. And I didn't even know. You just called me up and said, hey, we drew a Colorado elk tag for archery. And I'm like, sweet, where? And you said Grand Junction, right?
I think that was the closest town. Yeah.
And I remember that I was engaged to Gina, had called it off. Just, I wanted to make sure that she was the one, and realized she was quickly, and tried to get her back, and she wasn't having it. Obviously, she was pretty upset. And there was a country song that it's I can't remember the singer, but it says, if you're going through hell, keep on going, don't look back.
Mm-hmm.
You're welcome, everybody. I can't remember who sings it though.
I don't know.
But anyway, it was on the radio.
Though.
It was on the radio. That was right when it came out.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember just thinking, he's singing right to me, like I am going through hell. Like we talked about on the podcast earlier, like I was devastated.
Mm-hmm.
My little bubble was, just a few girls at the time, and it's like, man. But anyway, I digress. So 25 years old, me, you, and Jeremy, my brother,
mm-hmm.
and we head off to Grand Junction. And I was going to say, you probably remember some of the details more than me, but maybe not. After our last interview, you don't recollect much.
Joe Biden moments.
Yeah. So did we pull a trailer? Did we pull a camper?
Yeah, we pulled a camper up.
Okay. I couldn't remember what we slept in.
And but a couple of the nights it was too long of a drive from.
Well, I'm gonna get to that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna get to that. So we pull a trailer up, and I remember we show up, and it was just a unit number, right? It was just a square on a map. We'd never been over there. We'd never scouted.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know how you know where to put in. Like, I don't even know what
I think a friend of mine told me to try that unit.
So we show up. We hunted for a couple days, remember, and didn't see an elk.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing. And we said, let's go down to town and talk to the locals. So we went down, and I remember you went to a bar. We went into a bar, and you were asking around, hey, do you know where there's some elk? And somebody ended up telling us where some were.
Mm-hmm.
And so we moved locations, just not even far, but 10 or 15 miles away, something like that, wasn't it? Just down another road. And it was up on a plateau, right?
Yeah.
So we sleep in a camper, and we'd get up in the morning, and we'd hike up this. I mean, I look back, and it seems like it was Everest. In my memories, it was like I remember being at the bottom looking up thinking, I can't even do this.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to do it and then hunt and then come back.
Mm-hmm.
It was a good hike every morning.
Mm-hmm.
And we would hike up in the morning, and
you should try it in cowboy boots and sunglasses.
yeah. Which that's what he wears, his cowboy boots everywhere we go.
I had no doubt.
So we hike up the mountain, and we got up there. Remember, they were bugling and running around, and we're in them. And we'd hunt them morning and then we'd take a nap in the day up there. I remember we fell asleep one time. Do you remember this, where we took a nap and we're all laying there and we heard a bugle? Do you remember that?
I think so.
And you're deaf.
Yeah, I'm deaf.
So people don't realize Kendall is like, are you legally deaf?
Close. I'm borderline.
I don't know at what point they take your driver's license or where that.
We won't say.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't hear the people honking their horns and screaming. They take your license.
Yeah.
The children screaming.
Yeah. He got a couple surgeries for it, actually, right?
Yeah.
And it worked for a while, and then I'd come out into the shop, and he's out there grinding a piece of metal, and my eyes are shaking in my head, and I'm like, Dad, you just had surgery 2 weeks ago. Put on some ear muffs. Oh hell, I couldn't find them. They're over there probably. It's fine. And you'd go deaf again, right?
Right.
And then he would do it again and get a surgery.
Yeah. 3 surgeries later, I
gave up.
Give up.
It didn't fix it. You just thought, I can't not wear ear protection. So yeah, there was one day where we were laying there. I remember laying there, and I grew up hunting, but you know me, I'm not a huge hunter. I've gotten more into it the last few years because of the people I run around with. But you know me, and I would go out and do stuff, but I wasn't like an avid hunter. Would you say?
No, but you did. I don't know if you remember right, but you've always had a knack.
Oh, I know.
Ever since you was little.
Yeah.
You could always get in the middle of all the deer, the elk. I mean,
Yeah.
Remember that giant buck at AC Knoll?
Yeah. The 40-incher.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
you just always could find them.
I remember being up on Blowhard, or Right Hand. And you guys got out of the truck and all went over here to look. Glass. And I walked over to this side and I'm sitting there like looking down at town and a big old group of deer running under me. And I'm like, they're over here. And you came over. And that's true, where I've always just been in the right place. It's really weird.
Well,
And
if you've heard his other bow hunting stories, they knew they weren't in a lot of danger.
Can you turn his mic off?
those are other story time with Rick stories.
Yeah, we'll get to those.
They're
Yeah,
so good.
Yeah, they're good. That's a good point too. The deer are like, okay, buddy. Yeah. So, okay, so we're up there. I remember one day being woken up by a bugle, just a scream, and me and Jeremy pop up and we're like, it's right here, and you're still sleeping. We have to grab you and wake you up. And we were just in them. I remember getting some shots, and it was fun. We had a couple good days there, but we were just by the third day, we were just exhausted. We were going up and down. And I remember, hiking up like the third day, and we were walking around, and I says to you, remember the flagstone? There was the flagstone. And so anybody who doesn't know what flagstone, and it's like a thin 1 or 2 inch thick rock that's flat, right? And I remember looking around and there was some tipped up. And I says to you, Dad, why are there rocks all over standing straight up? And you said, bears. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember.
And I says,
you said,
I says, what?
There's hundreds of rocks standing up everywhere.
I says, what? What do you mean bears? And you said, and I never asked at the time, but were they grizzlies or are they black bear there?
Black bears.
There's no grizzly in Colorado?
No.
No?
Not that I know of.
Yeah. So
not then anyway.
So black bear, I says, what do you mean? And you says they go and they flip the rock looking for bugs. And sometimes the rock will just stay standing straight up. And this is like a 1 or 2 inch thick rock, anywhere from 6 inches to a couple feet in diameter, stood up on end. Like, that's hard for me to get to do. And I look out amongst the mountain, and there's everywhere. Remember, they weren't they? They were just every 10 feet. There's a rock sticking up, and I'm like, holy shit, that's a busy bear. And you're like, no, there's just a ton of them. Haven't you seen their shit? And I'm like, what? And you're like, yeah, look, there's a pile, there's a pile, there's a pile. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And even you were surprised, right? There was a lot of bear there. Or he was just always flipping rocks and busy. And so that's when I first felt the fear. And like I said, if you listen to our other podcast, it's going to come out after this one. But we talk about the picture of you with the mountain lion. And you actually said in that podcast, you're more afraid of bears than mountain lions. I'm equally afraid. And a lot, lions seem quick and like just like they'll slice you. Bears seem like they're more aggressive, but they'll like just chew on you. And so, is that how you feel, Woody? No. You grew up around this, right? This is kind of your world. It's not, I know you think that I'm crazy. This is what's the weird part for me is we go to bear camp in Moab every year, and they're all bear hunters. That's what these kids, there's kids there that are, 16 that have been bear hunting since they're 3. They've been under the tree since they were born, probably.
Yep.
And I remember going out there, even now, and I always have a pistol on me, which when we were in Colorado, we had bows and a knife. Like, I feel better with a gun. Like, I at least have a fighting chance. With a bow, I mean, it's like, I'm dead. But when we go to Moab, there's been several times where you guys will tree a bear. And people who don't understand, you use dogs, the dogs chase the bear goes up the tree, and then you come around below and, you know, either look at them or shoot them, right? If it's a shooter. And there's been a couple times where I'm sitting underneath the tree and the bear starts coming down and I will take off running. Like, you know, I feel like in the movies where like you push kids aside, you know, like I'm jumping over, you know, I'm like, I just have to outrun these little bastards, you know? And I actually ran into a Rob one time. I can't remember who it was, Grayson or somebody, you know, I don't know which one it was, but I'm running and I'm looking back thinking this thing is on me. And I ran right into a Rob. And they're like, what the hell are you doing? And I'm like, it's coming down. They're like, get over there and keep it in the tree. And I'm like, what? It's a bear, dude. Like, it's a bear. Like, did you not hear me? And he's like, get out of the way. And I'm a big guy. Like, I'm 6'5", 240. And I'm running as fast as I can, smack into them. And they're like, yeah, we know, we're aware. And they run over there and they can hold it in the tree, right? I mean, within reason, right? But I at the end, everybody teases me. So we get back to camp like, oh, did you see Rick running? Boy, he can move for a big boy, you know? And I sit there with that group of people and I think, you're making fun of me and you're the idiots. Like, right now I'm outnumbered, but I know I'm right. Like, when a bear comes down a tree, you should run. Like, and, you know, like,
I'm outnumbered now, but after a few years,
yeah,
some of you are going to go down.
Yeah. We lost Earl. Yeah. But that's what's crazy to me. And you've actually been out there. You've told me stories where you're out there and you were sitting under a tree one time, right? Were you on the ground with two dogs?
Oh, yeah.
You were sitting down.
We had a wounded bear.
I didn't know it was wounded.
Yeah.
It was in a tree though, right? Or was it
was
just
actually in a tree that had burned out and was hollow inside? And
those scare me the worst. Caves or holes.
Yeah.
Because they crawl in them. The hunters will crawl in there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, again, I know I'm right. Like, they're like, well, we're going in to shoot that bear. And I'm like, I don't think you should. And they're like, oh, you sissy, you know? And I'm like, okay, well, what do you want on your gravestone? I'm taking notes. But so you're sitting on the ground, right? Just kind of hanging out with it and you didn't know it was going to come out.
Well, we were trying to get it out, and some guys that was with me, and I was holding two dogs, just holding them so they would not get up in the face.
On leashes.
Yeah.
Or holding their collars.
No, I had their collars.
Okay. And these are hounds. These are like red tick. I don't know what hounds are.
Yeah. These were some red tick hounds.
Oh, yeah, I got it. I should have stuck with that. They look like red tick to me. Not your average basset. Okay, so you're on the ground and it comes out of the log, right?
Well, the kid that had wounded it stuck his head up in the hole, and another kid shined a flashlight, and he shot up into that hollow log.
Typical bear hunting behavior.
Yeah.
And he backed out. His ears were ringing, and he was
from the gunshot.
Yeah, he was just dizzy. It was ringing him so bad, and he comes stumbling back, and that bear come running out, just madder than hell. And the first thing he sees is me sitting on the ground holding these two dogs.
Yeah.
Looking back, I probably should have been standing.
Yeah. 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 I would have been gone.
But anyway, the bear come at us, and he's mad. And as he gets about from me to you away, I just
we're 4 feet away.
The dogs were not going after the bear; they were going backwards. Had my arms going, so I let
They ran.
one dog,
they were running.
They were running away.
Oh, see.
So I let
smart
one
dogs.
Dog,
these are bear dogs. Their one job is to chase the bear, and they're like, shit, this isn't good.
So I let one dog go, so I could get both hands on the other dog and put the dog in front of me. And he decided he would fight and give me a chance to get on my feet and go.
So you had the bear right there at it. They were doing stuff together for a minute. They were fighting for a minute.
Yeah. And the dog never did get hurt.
Yeah.
He got swatted a little bit, but
yeah. And he fought him long enough, and then it turned and ran eventually.
no, they were fighting on the ground. Another dog came back in to
help,
and the kid got his ears back and got over there and finished.
You never heard the shot.
No.
That's why you were sitting on the ground. You were asleep. It blew his ears out, but you were like, huh? What was that? Something? So he got up and shot it while it was fighting? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So might have been lucky he was there. What could have the outcome have been? Like,
I think a dog could have been hurt.
Not you though. You felt like you were.
Yeah. I thought.
Did you get up and get away?
Yeah.
Okay, so
I backed off about.
You threw the dog into the bear, basically, and then you gave you time to retreat.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
so that's what I hear. These are the things that I grew up hearing. So we're back in Colorado, right? And we're up there hiking, and we hiked the morning hunt and the night hunt, and usually the first three nights we would head off the hill. And we're walking along, and you and Jeremy apparently made an executive decision that we're going to just sleep here.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember thinking, okay, this is a joke. I remember thinking they're messing with me, like they're teasing me. Because, I think you guys knew that I was afraid of the bear. And I remember thinking, this is a joke. And then I remember you walking around looking.
But you guys had planned it, right? Didn't you have your sleeping bags?
No.
Oh.
No. I thought we had. I went back to remember.
Oh.
No, and I know why I didn't have one, and I can get to that.
Okay.
So, yeah, he's just like, hey, we're just going to sleep up here. We don't want to walk back down just to hike back up. And I'm like, I will walk. I'm probably the most out of shape of us three, and I'm willing to walk back up tomorrow. And I remember thinking it was a joke, and then you're walking around looking for a flat spot.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, is he real? Is this really happening? Like, people don't do this. I mean, we've gone out hunting a lot, and I've never, ever slept on the ground like that. Mm-hmm. We've done it a couple times since where we'll take either cots or sleeping bags, but I've never just laid on the ground and went to bed. And apparently that's what you two decided was the smartest thing in the country of bears. And I remember you guys looking for a place to lay down. I remember we found a spot by some big pines, and I was like, oh shit, this is happening. Like, this is real. And I remember coming to talk to you, and I says, Dad, I'm afraid of the bears. And you laughed, probably, called me a sissy under your breath. And then you saw that I was serious and really scared as a 25-year-old man. And I remember you saying, we're going to build a fire. And remember, Rick, they're more afraid of us than we are of them. And I'm like, I don't think that's true. I'm pretty sure there's not a bear out there in the woods right now thinking, fuh, Rick's here. But I didn't stop thinking, fuh, there's a bear out there. And so I remember you saying, yeah, so you said, as long as we have a fire, they won't come around. And I remember thinking, okay, so fire's number one. We have to have a fire. And I remember walking off for what felt like 10 minutes. And I remember coming back with large logs, thinking these things need to burn for a long time. And I come walking up, and you and Jeremy are snoring. And I'm like, what in the hell is happening? Like, you two are asleep? I remember you guys being exhausted, and so was I. But I remember looking at you two sleeping, thinking, you have no idea what kind of danger we're in. And I remember building the fire pit around. You guys went to sleep, and I remember getting between us and building a fire pit and getting a fire going. And I remember just literally panicked. I really was panicked, like a nervous, what are those called? Panic attacks, you know, where it was just like, this is terrifying.
Hey guys, let's step away from the conversation real quick. And I wanted to talk to you about a few things that M42 Adventures is offering this year. First, I'd like to talk about our retreats experiences here in southern Utah. They will be on a 50-acre ranch. Absolutely amazing property. And it's a place where you can come and learn from the experts in their fields, build friendships, and enhance your outdoor skills. We're going to have everything from fly fishing experiences, UTV experiences, horse riding, archery, survival experiences, hiking, outdoor cooking, firearms. It's absolutely amazing. We just had our last retreat a couple weeks ago. 33 people attended, and it was an absolute amazing event. If that sounds like something you'd want to come do, it's all inclusive, and I promise it will change you. So hopefully you can look into those dates. They are August 29th to September 1st and September 12th to September 15th. Look into that and see if those will work for you, and we'd love to see you out there. The other one is our Africa experiences. This fall, we have 2 Africa experiences coming up, August 5th to the 11th and August 11th to the 17th. We've actually sold, I think, 19 places to those events, so it is filling up. But if you'd like to come out, again, it's men, women, children. I'm taking my wife and my 3 little boys, age 12, 9, and 3. So it's family friendly. It should be an absolutely amazing experience as well. It's not just hunting. You can come and do the photo safari, helicopter ride, or go to an orphanage. I'm actually very excited about this one. So if that's something you'd like to come out and check out, I will be the headliner August 11th to the 17th, and Ryan Mickler will be the headliner August 5th to the 11th, and we'll be spending time with you during that week and getting to know each other. So I would love to see you out there. Again, those are some of the things we have coming up. If that's anything you'd be interested in, we're also going to start offering corporate retreats, family group retreats here in southern Utah. If you'd like to come out and have one of these experiences with the horses, with the UTVs, with the firearms, with the archery, and bring your company, your family, or just a group, we can cater it to you as well. So that's something new that we are going to start offering. We've got a couple of those in the works for this summer with some companies that want to bring their employees out and actually partner with M42 and have their own retreats. So just a few of the things we're offering. Again, we're excited about all this. If you'll continue to listen to the podcast, follow us on social media, share, follow, we sincerely appreciate that. All right, let's get back to this conversation.
And I remember getting the fire going, and I remember thinking, I'm broken up with Gina. I'm really sad. If there was ever a time to go, like, this probably is as good as any, you know, like, at least I'm not on a high, you know, like, we didn't just get married and I'm going out, like, you know, I was pretty sad. So I remember really thinking, if I was going to die, this is probably a good time, you know. And I remember starting the fire and laying there or sitting there, and I thought, I have to keep this going all night. I'm just not going to sleep. I'm just not going to go to bed. I'll just keep the fire going. I remember thinking, you know, I like those sentries in World War II where they put you out on the hill and they're like, "Okay, Dave, you're on watch.
Stay awake.
Stay awake, bro. Stay awake. It's life or death. Don't let the enemy come inside." And I remember sitting there thinking, I got to stay awake. And I think I made it till like midnight or something. I can't remember. I think
My dad and brother depend on me.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
They don't even know.
Yeah, I remember just laying there. And I'm looking at like our bows on the ground, and I remember thinking, if a bear comes, you know, can I get it pulled back in time? Probably not. We know the other stories.
Kendall, do you remember being nervous but knowing that Rick was there to protect you?
You weren't nervous at all, right? Like 0%?
No.
0%. That is unbelievable to me. See, again, I know I'm right. I know that what I feel is right, and he's wrong. But you're similar, Woody. You go camping alone.
Yeah.
And you told me a story the other day where you got scared. You saw some tracks over your tracks.
Yeah. So it's not that I am not afraid of a bear or a mountain lion attacking me. It's just not something I think about. And it's not something I worry about.
Why not?
And
You just think they're not going to bother you. They're more afraid.
They're more afraid of me than
That's some bullshit. That's what some old cowboy said 200 years ago.
How many people have said that never lived?
Yeah, exactly.
But there was one time where I had hiked up on top of the mountain and
Pine Valley.
I hiked up on first, like early, I left 4 o'clock in the morning, like on Saturday morning, hiked up there, hunted all day, hiked back down Saturday night to go to church on Sunday. And then on Monday morning, I hiked back up. And on Monday morning in my flashlight, I could see the mountain lion tracks on the trail. And there's nowhere, like, it's a steep mountain. It goes up the side of the hill. So I was like, okay, this thing could be, if it's on the hill, like that's right by my face. And so I was ready. Like I had my hand on my pistol hiking up.
So you had a gun. You were bow hunting, right?
Yeah. And I usually don't, but I did.
Yeah.
And I was ready.
Yeah.
So
that's the only time you've ever been worried about a bear or a lion?
Yeah. That's the only time I really ever worried about it, thought about it.
So that's great. It's not reality. So I remember sitting there and my eyes just burning because we'd been hunting hard, hiking down off. You guys obviously have fell asleep in like 7 minutes. And my eyes were just burning. And I remember sitting there thinking, I can't fall asleep. I'm going to not wake up. And that's a horrible place to feel. Like this is supposed to be an exciting hunt, bonding experiences. And that's where I'm at mentally is if your eyes close, you're dead. That is horrible. But that was reality. So I remember sitting there and I remember thinking, okay, I cannot keep my eyes open. This is not going to happen. I have to sleep. And I remember thinking, okay, I'm going to, Jeremy was on one side, you were on one side of the fire and Jeremy was on the other. And I remember right in between him and the fire pit that we had made, there was barely room for a person. And I thought, there's no way. Rule number 1, when you're camping, you never sleep on the outside. Like, I know that. That's rule number 1. So I was like, I got to get between him and the fire. And I remember thinking, okay, I'm going to throw a bunch of wood on this fire. And I think it'll burn for a few hours. And so I loaded up with firewood and I go to sleep. And I remember actually, before I fell asleep, I remember laying there. And again, no sleeping bag. Even a sleeping bag, you feel a little more protected. When you're just laying there and your arm's in the dirt, your face is in the dirt. It's like, we're better than this. We have we have technology. There's a trailer a couple miles away with a bed and
I've just
pillow.
got my arm out here waiting to be chewed on.
100%. Oh, I had my arms crossed over my chest. I was such a small target in the fetal position. And I remember the last thing I remember was laying there still trying to keep my eyes open. And I remember looking over to the left and the fire was big. I remember it got pretty big and we were under some pines. And I remember looking up thinking, that might catch those needles on fire. And I thought, well, if it does, we'll live. At least there'd be no bears. And I remember laying there and I remember thinking, I was sweating, just literally cooking myself. I was on fire from being 12 inches from a fire flame that was 4 or 5 feet high. And I remember thinking, I'm probably going to die from the fire. This is ironic. I really remember thinking that.
And Kendall, you didn't even care.
Yeah.
You were just
Snoring away. Snoring away. And I'm going through all these battles. Like, do you guys realize that you're alive? It's 1 o'clock now. You got 4 more hours of life because of my efforts. And so I closed my eyes, couldn't keep them open any longer. And the next thing I remember was being jerked around. And I remember, I think I was in the middle of a bear dream. You know how, you know how when you are worried about something? And I remember thinking, oh shit, it's got me. This is it. And I'm getting pulled around. And all of a sudden I lean up and Jeremy says, what in the hell? And I'm like, oh no. Oh no.
This is the best part.
And I look over at Kendall and Kendall says, what in the hell? And I remember Jeremy saying, what is happening? What is happening? And I'm like, I don't know. It's a true story, huh, Dad?
It's a true story.
And what I left out was the last thing before I closed my eyes. And this is genius. Again, I get teased every single hunting camp. This damn story comes up. And I'm the idiot. But I'm genius. So what I did, the last thing I did before I went to sleep was I took my boots on my feet. I undid my laces on my 1 foot. And I tied my laces to Jeremy's laces. And I remember thinking, this is genius. But if I don't wake up before them and untie this, I'm going to be teased the rest of my life. So I set my alarm for like 20 minutes earlier and I slept through it. So Jeremy wakes up and we're tied together. And he's like, what in the hell is happening? And I'm like, I figured that if a bear came and grabbed a hold of me, it would wake you up when it was dragging me off. And I had a fighting chance. And I look over at Kendall, and Kendall's like, I got my own problems. And his shit was all melted. I remember I melted like I don't know if it was your jacket or something. That fire got big. And I remember looking around and all the pine needles were burned. You know how you scorch them. Yeah. And that was my memory of that trip. That was one of the worst, most just horrible things. And I cannot believe that it didn't scare you. I really can't believe that it wasn't a fear. Like I was legitimately frightened. And I've had, you remember, you weren't on that trip, but there was another trip. I'll tell that another day where a bear got a hold of a float tube when we were on that 4-wheeler trip. Remember with Christine and Cody and them? And I'll tell that story. I'll save that story. But you remember what she did in camp?
Yeah.
Again, she had to use the restroom in the middle of camp because we were afraid of a bear on the outskirts.
I heard the story.
And we wake up and people are like, you did that in the middle of camp? And I'm like, genius. Like, stop making fun of her. She is smart. That is what you should do when there's a bear on the loose eating float tubes. But yeah, that was my experience with that one. And that's just how that one went. It's unbelievable that you guys aren't afraid of that stuff. I know a lot of people listening to this who are in LA and stuff will be like, yeah, I would have left. But you don't have any fear of sleeping out on the ground?
No, I think it's because I grew up doing it as a kid and later on, you know, hunting. And a lot of times we'd go hunting and the dogs would be out all night long and we'd have to stay out all night with them.
Just hiking and looking for them, whatever.
No, we'd just build a fire on a hilltop and just
lay down and get some sleep.
Lay down, get some sleep, or set up and talk all night long. And
Yeah, that's crazy. I probably wouldn't have been as scared, but there was a lot of flagstones tipped up. That was right. That was a high bear density area, I think. They were stacked. Well, I'm pretty sure there was like, they say they're territorial. I think there was like 70 per square mile in that particular unit. There was a lot more bear than elk. But yeah, that was that one. Pretty harrowing experience. We're lucky to be alive, and you're welcome. That's where I'll leave that one like that. Yeah, I'm the idiot, but we're all here today
because of you.
Yep, exactly. So, all right. Well, that was our Friday story. We'll have more of those coming down the road. I apparently and unfortunately have plenty. Way too many.
It's amazing.
My dad has some good ones though too. I'm going to tell the one of you in Alaska with when you didn't get your gear.
Oh,
yeah, that's going to come up someday. That was pride, almost killed him. I think Jeremy and Kendall were both scared that night. They just couldn't admit it. And I was man enough to be like, I am terrified.
Well, they probably also learned don't fall asleep before Rick.
Yeah, Jeremy actually woke up the next morning because I had a knife across my chest. I remember too.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I slept with a knife. I slept with a knife on my chest. And Jeremy woke up the next morning and says, "What the hell happened? You melted Dad. You got a knife on your chest. We're tied together." He's like, "What happened between 9 p.m. and 6 a.m.?" I'm like, "A lot."
You would have fell asleep, you would have known.
Yeah, I'm like, "You're welcome."
I kept 70 barely for myself.
Yeah. I still have PTSD from it. My kids are like, when we go bear hunting, the kids are like, "Dad, should we be scared?" I'm like, "Hell yeah. It's a bear." "Well, why aren't the Robs scared?" I'm like, "I don't know. They're not as smart." Just kidding, Robs. Just kidding. But yeah, it's unbelievable to me how you can, and like you with horses and all these things, the more you are around it, the more you're comfortable, and that's, again, these experiences and these different types of things that we're bringing out people to do. Gene is afraid of guns. And I'm like, a gun doesn't hurt you. It's the person handling it, but there's a lot of, when you don't have the education, and apparently I was uneducated on the bears.
Your dad hides his fear through snoring.
yeah, that's exactly. Yeah. Well, and when you can't hear the bear,
That's how you know somebody's
when you can't hear the bear attack Rick in the night, did it happen? If you can't hear the bear, what is it? You can't hear the bear shit in the woods, and what is it? Oh, the tree
fall.
Damn it. You can't hear the bear crap in the woods. Did it happen? Yes, it did. And it happened right outside camp. Okay. All right. Well, thanks for joining me, you guys. We'll do it again. And that's the first episode of Rick's Stories. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you.